Hey guys, welcome back to the Pillowworks channel. My name is John. The guys over at the Modern Maker podcast are throwing a one sheet of plywood challenge in conjunction with Rockler, so I figured I'd give it a shot. I'm going to be making a Squiggle shelf, which is going to be a play on my Squiggle bench, so I've already made the template for it, so this is going to be a floating shelf made out of one sheet of plywood. Let's do it. I started out by ripping my strips. I had the guy at Home Depot get this sheet cut down to 2 foot by 4 foot sections so that I could fit it into my car. Then I got them ripped down into 8-inch wide strips because that's what would fit my template. Then I can go ahead and get my template traced on and head over to the bandsaw to do a lot of rough cutting. What I couldn't get done with the bandsaw, which is mostly these inside curves and some of the outside areas, I took care of with the jigsaw. With all of my pieces rough cut, I can get started flush trimming. I'm going to start off with one piece here attached to my template with some double sided tape, and then I'll use a flush trim bit and my little router to get everything cleaned up. This project is similar to the Squiggle bench I made a few months back, but this time I'm going to be working from the middle out. This way I can add 2 layers at a time, which will cut my glue ups in half. I'm using some glue and a pin nailer to get everything secured, and then I'll come back with some clamps to get everything squeezed down. For the rest of the routing, I switched to my larger router and a bigger flush trim bit. This just made things a little bit smoother because the bit was a bit stronger, and also with the larger base plate of this router, it gave me more surface area to balance on the thin surface of the Squiggle. The rest of this portion of the project was pretty much rinse and repeat, just adding some layers, getting them glued down, and then coming back with the flush trim bit to get everything cleaned up. I ended up doing 9 layers, which gave this shelf about 6.5 inches of depth. With all the layers trimmed up, I could start doing some sanding. I started off with the orbital sander, and some of the hard to reach spots I had to do some hand sanding. This was much easier than the Squiggle bench because there's not nearly as many peaks and valleys. The next step was to drill out for the mounting hardware, which is going to hold this shelf up on the wall. I get started here with a 1/2-inch bit at the drill press to establish a nice square hole. Well, it's round, but it's square to the shelf. Then I can finish it up with the drill. That way I can get it as deep as I need it to be. After that, I'll come back with the router to route out the mortise for the rest of the bracket. Next, I could add a 3/8 inch radius roundover to the edges, which is just going to give it a nice softer look. My original plan was to leave all of the plies exposed, in the spirit of the plywood challenge, and then just paint the front of it white or gray. But there were so many voids in this plywood, and it was really unattractive, so I decided to fill it in with some spackling, sand it back, and then add a couple coats of white paint. With the white paint dry, I decided to add some pops of color. These 3 colors are going to match the bedding in the nursery, so that's why I chose them. And I have these 3 little foam brushes, which made it pretty simple to add the polka dots. Hey guys, thanks for checking this one out. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank the guys over at the Modern Maker Podcast for throwing this little plywood challenge. I had a lot of fun with it, and I don't get to work with plywood too often, so it was kind of nice to step out of my comfort zone. The shelf is held up with 2 pieces of floating shelf hardware, and on each side on the top there's 2 screws to kind of act as set screws to hold everything nice and snug. Right now we just have a couple little keepsakes on it. We have the baby's first teddy bear, some Legos that look like me and my wife, and 2 mini Ames elephants. We'll probably put some more stuffed animals and maybe some little books or little knickknacks that we collect along the way. At first I was kind of wary about the polka dots and the white paint, but as I see it in the room now, I kind of like it. So let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching.